Welcome to Reddit Aliens. What is something that you have witnessed or experienced that made you feel like life was a simulation? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. I get the thing where as soon as I learn of a new word or go to a new location, it suddenly pops up everywhere in my daily life. Now, most of these occurrences can be struck up to coincidence, but a couple of months ago, I heard the word dyscalculia for the first time. And then by the next day, my Dutch teacher, who doesn't even have anything to do with maths, used it out of nowhere. I don't even remember the context, but I do remember the feeling of no effing way. That ensued. Weird. I have my septum pierced, and I only have one of each nose ring I buy. I'm looking through my jewelry box one day when I find a nose ring. It's silver, with 3 small rhinestones on it. I think, I thought I was wearing this one. Which one am I wearing? So I checked the mirror. I'm wearing it. I've never had 2 of these in my life. It only came as one, not as a set or anything, which means I'd have to have bought 2 individual ones, but I definitely know that I didn't. Where did this come from? I got off a flight and a plane load of passengers were following a couple slightly ahead. Turned out the couple were walking to a restroom. Everyone just automatically followed them in the wrong direction without realizing. Then, once everyone turned around, a new couple were in the lead, and everyone just followed them to border control. It was like a mob of NPCs following the main character. Had a stroke in 2019, started coming to in November, left the hospital and continued my recovery at home in January of 2020. For months after that, and even up to now to a lesser extent, I had my doubts about being back in reality. To me, my universe was my bedroom, the bathroom, the hallway, and the living room. I actually thought the kitchen could be a holographic projection of some sort, and didn't come to the realization that it was real until I used my walker to walk in there for the first time. Even today, when I go someplace that I hadn't been to since before the stroke, I have to convince myself that I'm actually there, and that it's not merely my brain recreating the setting from my memories of it. This is gonna sound a bit stupid right off the bat to some people, but looking through a telescope for the first time made me really wonder if it's all real. My grandma bought me a small personal telescope when I was in my teens. Nothing too fancy, just a 2-part collapsible portable student telescope. It was still surprisingly powerful though. On bright nights, I could literally see individual craters on the moon if I focused it just right. The moon looks really different through a magnified lens. You can make out shadows from hills and mountains and craters and judge height differences with the naked eye easily. Until that moment, I just saw the moon as this background object, always there but not too exciting. When I looked at it through my telescope, it just dawned on me that it's literally a huge rock with entire mountains on it constantly circling us, but never getting too close. Hard to explain what that feels like, but it's just this sense of cosmic size and how small we really are in the universe. It's almost scary, and definitely enough to make you wonder how much you can trust your own senses. I don't think what you said was stupid at all. The enormity of the universe can make us feel minuscule, kind of like the pale blue dot by Carl Sagan. Good observation. I woke up in my neuro-intensive care, and there, by my cot, was Santa. I felt quite well, and had trouble believing it was real, but no. It turns out that Santa actually does visit the neuro ICU on Christmas morning, and it turned out that I had sustained a sufficient injury from cancer to be on life support for weeks beforehand. All of the painkillers also didn't help it seem real. This probably sounds insignificant, but I have these beads. They flatten out and fuse with heat to make something. Perler beads. That's not the important part. I was picking them out, and in my fingers I picked a white one, and I set it down and it was green. I'm so sure I picked up a white one, I don't know what happened, but it low-key scared me. There is something about my face, voice, and name that is just everywhere. I was once in a class with 3 other people with my same first name. In high school, there were 4 people that I was constantly mixed up with based entirely on my face. One of them was in my class, and it was literally like looking in the mirror. Throughout my life, I've worked at chain stores. I have several people ask me, "Hey, don't you work at the Gas Mart on Main Street too? I just saw you yesterday." No, that was someone with the same face and voice as me. I'm about to start using stock lines. Drinks for the thirsty, good for the hungry, Some bae call this junk. Me, I call them treasures. TL, DR. I'm an NPC shopkeeper in someone else's simulation. So I have these dreams that end up coming true. I know that you're probably thinking this guy's talking shit, but there was a day where I had a dream and then like 2 to 3 years later, it happened. I was so surprised when it did because it was the most random thing. It was just sitting on the couch with some friends, but it was exactly how it was in the dream. We were all sitting there, we had drinks, they all sat in the same spot, and I was in the same effing creeped me out. You should dream about a period. Deja vu. If life is a simulation, then my theory is that we're all in an infinite loop of the same life. When you die, you start over from the beginning, just as you would a video game. Deja vu is our subconscious recognizing that we've already been through the same life before. Seeing the same type of people. I don't really know how to explain it. Like if you have a friend in the 3rd grade, John, and he has certain specific traits, mannerisms and features, it's easy to describe John. He's very distinct, like everything about him was handpicked to create a profile. Years later, you're in high school, and you meet someone who isn't John literally, but is John in every way. The mannerisms, specific traits, sometimes even the way they look. You meet multiple Johns and Janes and etc. throughout your life, and it's almost scary how similar the Johns are to each other and the Janes are to each other, and so on. Not everyone you come in contact with is like this, but every now and then you meet another John or Jane, etc. It feels like video game NPCs in real life, if I'm using that correctly, like deja vu, but with an entire person. You start to pay attention, and then it feels like you're surrounded by the same people everywhere you go, just in different form. I can't tell you the amount of times I realize that the person in front of me is identical in almost every way to a specific person in 4th grade, a specific person in high school, and so on. All of them seeming like the exact same person, just in a different form. Either other people experience this and we're in a simulation, or I'm losing my mind. 2 doors. The left leads to the restroom. The right leads to the hallway. I'm going to the restroom, opening the door to find my mom in it. I apologized and closed the door. Something was off because she didn't say anything. She just slowly turned her head to face me, silent. So I wait a few minutes for her to be done with it, to suddenly see the right door open, and it's my mom coming into the room to get into the restroom. I was speechless. I get vaguely, am I in a coma and dreaming vibes when everything goes my way for a long time, like a few months or a year. My life has been far from regular, yet I always seem to come out great despite my hardships. I'm not complaining, I love it. Many of my hardships are inherited trauma, which by nature feel like psychological experiments. So yeah, I wonder. I've had many occurrences throughout my life, but last year I had a dream, and in this dream I remember waking up inside the dream, becoming aware I was dreaming and everything was just a white light. Then a thought, or a voice said in my head, "You are God. You are living this life and you created everyone around you so you wouldn't be lonely." Then I woke up. It reminds me of the short story The Egg, where pretty much the story is that we are all God in a sense, and that we are all the same, being experiencing each individual lifetime for eternity. I do not enjoy this knowledge, and I hope it's not true, because life sucks, and I don't want to go through it again, but that's my story. Recently, I heard a podcast episode, thought it was interesting, vaguely forgot about it, and about a week later I was listening to the same podcast. They release a new episode every day, and the episode that was released that day was actually the same one I had just listened to about a week earlier from them. I checked, and there were no missing episodes to indicate that it was a re-upload, and it wasn't repeated. How in the F had I already heard it? Maybe it was a glitch in the Matrix. In a dream, I asked what the time was. It just very specifically turned 2:22 at night. I woke up and had to look at the time, but thought it was BS. After about a minute later, I gave in to find the time shift from 2:22 to 2:23, so I woke at the time I dreamt about. To name a few ones I can think of right now, when I sing a song in my head and either someone else starts singing it out loud or it comes on the radio, or that one time my sister sent me a video on Snapchat a long time ago when she saw a plane just hovering. It was in the air, not moving, just hovering there. Deja vu. My deja vu always feels extremely like it has happened before, not just a little bit. like I recognize everything in that moment from another time. Me and my then roommate were walking home together at night. I looked up at the sky and pointed out how strange the moon looked. It was very red and gigantic. Then up ahead of us, we saw a man dressed in really odd clothes. I can't recall the exact outfit, but it was weird enough for both of us to find it slightly amusing or point of conversation. The man was walking in the same direction as we were across the street, so his back was to us. Eventually, we overtook him and got lost in other conversations. We reached a crossing, and up ahead of us we saw the man again, but coming from an impossible direction. There was literally no way he could have been where he was. The streets were simply not configured that way, and this time he was walking towards us. This all took place in the city, so it was bright enough to see clearly, and neither of us were intoxicated. We were both coming from work. We bolted in another direction to take a side street as we were both extremely freaked out. Without going into details, this decision ended up changing the course of our relationship in a massive way. That whole experience was one of the strangest moments of my life. I'm generally a hard skeptic, but there have been other experiences aside from this that have made me question the fabric of reality for a second. Well, I think I speak for everyone when I say, what changed in a massive way? We have to know, so let us know. Anyone remember the toy back in the 90s called a Yakback? I do. Well, it was a mini recorder, essentially, and you could record in a few different voices if I recall, yes. I had a teal-colored one. Well, anyway, I packed it in a shoebox and it stayed under my bed for a long time. I kept some quick recordings on it, can't remember what it said, forgot about it for months. I was looking through my closet and found a Yakback. Teal, same recording. I thought that was odd. I swear I kept this in the shoebox, so I go to look under my bed and yes, there was a Yakback there. Somehow now I had a duplicate, both with the same recording. The weird thing is, I played back the recording on both, confused and kinda terrified, but when I went to show my mom and play the recordings, they both erased. She wasn't sure where the second one came from either though. My brother had one, but it was blue, not teal. Okay, wait, I actually do have a personal story to share, but I don't think it falls in line with the simulation aspect, but it's definitely interesting and kinda messed up. So there have been some nights where I sleep and I dream, but these sessions feel incredibly long, like a lot of time has passed. I'll wake up and have the feeling that it's early in the morning, like 6 or 7 a.m., to only then look at the clock and realize it's literally 1 a.m. I knocked out at 10 p.m. and it was only 3 hours of sleep. I remember tripping so much because it was such a weird phenomenon. Here's where it gets bad though. Because I felt like all those hours of sleep when it was only 3 hours, I now have energy and don't feel tired in the slightest. So then here I am up all night and it's like, bro, it really does suck. However, there can be a benefit to this. For an example, what if I have trouble sleeping at night? Then I knock out at 5 a.m. but have to wake up by 8 a.m. Well, imagine. If I have the phenomenon where it feels like 8 hours of sleep, but only 3 hours have actually passed. Bingo! That is actually really useful because then I get the energy and feel well rested. I mean, that sounds like a pretty decent superpower. I know it doesn't sound like flying or anything, but imagine needing a little sleep but getting the maximum amount of energy. I'd like that. I was in boot camp, right? At night was when we were supposed to iron our uniforms for the next day. So one guy irons his, and when he's done, he wakes up the next guy and they do theirs and so on. At night, when we went to bed, I usually fell into a deep sleep right away. I mean, as deep as you can go. One night, when my neighbor woke me up, I opened my eyes and everything was baseline grids, green lines. I've seen it before on TV when like a computer animator is creating characters or environments. They start with green grids as the basis for anything physical. His voice sounded robotic and mechanical, followed by reality and textures all filling in. It was pretty wicked.